And here now to discuss this is Professor of History at New York University and the author of Strongmen, Mussolini to the Present, Ruth Ben-Ghiat. Ruth, thanks so much for being here with us on this Saturday evening. First, I just want your take on the Russian obsession with Tucker Carlson and also what he's been doing as well to kind of feed that.
Yeah, so Tucker Carlson has been the poster boy and the mouthpiece of Viktor Orban, any autocrat he can cultivate. And of course, now that he's not with Fox anymore, he's looking for a new niche. And so he's been, as you know, traveling around trying to interviewing Orban, then interviewing Putin, who actually humiliated him on television. So he could be seen as what Russians call the useful fool, the foreigner or a native person who props the autocrat up and then is used by him, because autocrats follow a use and discard policy with people, even those who help them.
And we saw in Matthew's piece there, Russian state TV holding up some members of the Republican Party on Capitol Hill, and it comes after we heard from Republicans who chair the Intelligence Committee and others who said that it's as if Russian propaganda has infected parts of their party. Do you think that's true?
I do, because the sad truth is that the Republican Party has become an autocratic party. Unfortunately, it has exited from democracy, and this is why we're in this very weird and surreal situation. We're a bipartisan nation, and one party is not supportive of democratic ideals and norms anymore. That's why they still support the January 6th violent insurrection. So they have been influenced greatly by the Kremlin, and there are people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who a lot of what she says, people like to mock her or even call her stupid, but a lot of what she says are, it lines up with Kremlin talking points, especially on foreign policy things.
Now, this week we saw the former President Donald Trump post on his Truth Social that Russia will release jailed Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich as soon as he's reelected, saying Putin will, quote, do that for me, but not for anyone else. And when he was asked how that was possible in an interview with Fox News, he said it's because, quote, Putin respects me. Do you think that's true? Do you think any of this is true?
So Trump is no friend to journalists. He's been calling journalists enemies of the people for a long time. And he also treats people like pawns, just like Putin, et cetera. This is about Trump's line. You're going to hear this more as the election approaches, that the world is safer with Trump in office. And it's not because he's a friend of democracy. It's because he is a friend and ally of autocrats. And so here he's boasting about his relationship with Putin. Now, I see this with a grain of salt, because we know that important Kremlin television propaganda shows routinely mock Trump as a weak sycophant, and they don't respect him. He's mocked in the open. So it remains to be seen if anything would actually happen to this journalist or any other person, American, who is unfortunate enough to be captured.
I'm also curious about your thoughts as we head into the back half of this election year and people start to click in, especially after the summer's over, to the presidential election and other elections that will be happening for different offices. Just the shades of all of this that you write about in your book and how that might start to come out in campaigning, in social media, in other Russia or Chinese influence or meddling in the election, things like that.
Yeah, we are in a fight for our democracy that on a level we've never had to be in before. And we have multiple enemies. And unfortunately, the more we, don't stand up for democracy, including helping democracies under siege, such as Ukraine, the more the whole world becomes, very dangerous, because autocrats watch what other autocrats do. And so Xi Jinping is now doing military exercises in Taiwan, and he sees what's happening in Ukraine. He also knows that half of the political life of the country is not into democracy anymore, as we discussed before, and is actually, there's a wing of the Republican Party that's pro-Putin, as is Trump. This is valuable information. So we're in a kind of a crisis point, an inflection point, and this is the most important election of our lives.
And also this week, Trump shared this post talking about creating a, quote, unified Reich. The Trump campaign eventually took it down after about 18 hours after it was up, and then they blamed it on a staffer. Biden immediately seized on that and accused Trump of using Hitler's language. But again, as someone like you who studies this sort of language, studies how it's used and has been used through history, what do you think about seeing that pop up?
I think that the phrase unified Reich, it's of uncertain origin, but Trump's supporters on the far right, the people he wants to keep interested in him, they look at the word Reich and they know what he's talking about. And that video, which I've analyzed in an op-ed for CNN, really kind of gives the message that Trump will become a world historical figure. It's made as though it's a 1930s documentary, like a newspaper's. He will become famous in history because he was able to enact mass repression. It talks about as though 15 million people had been deported from the United States. It shows somebody wearing a hoodie being arrested. So it's kind of a dystopian vision of a police state. And that's what the Trump campaign thinks will make Trump as famous as the dictators he admires.
All right, Ruth Ben-Ghiat, thank you so much. We appreciate it.